Good morning, everyone. We're looking at Psalm 110 this morning. It begins, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. The Lord shall send the rod of your strength out of Zion. Rule in the midst of your enemies. Your people shall be volunteers in the day of your power. In the beauty of holiness from the womb of the morning, you have the dew of your youth. The Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. The Lord is at your right hand. He shall execute kings in the day of his wrath. He shall judge among the nations. He shall fill the places with dead bodies. He shall execute the heads of many countries. He shall drink of the brook by the wayside. Therefore he shall lift up the head." This psalm is a messianic psalm. It's talking about the king who would come to rule the nations. And God speaks of this king not as any man, but as God himself. And that's established in the first verse. "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool." That this Lord to come would be sitting at the right hand of God until he comes to the earth to rule. Now, it says also about this Messiah who would come, or this king who would come, that he would not just be a king, but he would also be a priest, an intercessor between God and man. And it said in verse 4, "The Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek." These verses that I read, the first verse, "The Lord said unto my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool," and verse 4, "The Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever according to the Melchizedek," are quoted often in the New Testament. Jesus himself actually quotes from this psalm in Matthew 22. When he's being questioned by the Pharisees, he asked them a question. And it says in Matthew 22, verses 41 through 45, this is Jesus speaking. "While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, saying, 'What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he?' And they said, 'The son of David.' And he said to them, 'How then does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool? If David calls him Lord, how is he his son?'" Jesus was using this psalm to show them a truth about the Christ, the Messiah of God who would come. They knew from the scriptures that he would be born of the house of David. But Jesus asked them a question, well, if he's the son of David, why would David call him Lord? If he was just one of his descendants, they would look back honoring their father, David, and he would be Lord. He wouldn't call one of his descendants Lord, unless that descendant who was born after him also existed before him. And obviously, Jesus Christ was always in existence because he's God. So he was before David, but in his incarnation, he was also the son of David. So he was trying to get them to understand the truth of who the Christ was. And as he was standing in front of them, leading them like this, they really still couldn't understand who was speaking to them, that it was God in the flesh who had come. Now, verse 4 is also quoted in the New Testament as well. And if you read in the book of Hebrews, you'll see a discussion on this man Melchizedek in chapters 5, 6, and 7. Who is Melchizedek? Well, we see him in the book of Genesis, chapter 14, after Abraham comes from defeating the kings who stole Lot and his family and the other people from Sodom. He returns from that battle. He's met by the king of Sodom, and he's also met by this other person. And verse 18 tells us, "Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, 'Blessed be Abraham of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth.'" So we're introduced to this gentleman who is a priest of God. And the psalm is now telling us that the Messiah who will come is God in the flesh, the Son of God. Other places in the Bible will also tell us that he's the Son of David, and that he's also going to come not just as a ruling king, but as this priest after the order of Melchizedek. If you want to understand the importance of this, Hebrews chapter 7 really wraps it up from verses 15 on to the end of the chapter. And I'll just read it out to you, because it's very important that we understand this aspect of the ministry of Jesus. This change has been made very clear since a different priest who is like Melchizedek has appeared. Jesus became a priest not by meeting the physical requirement of belonging to the tribe of Levi, but by the power of a life that cannot be destroyed. And the psalmist pointed this out when he prophesied, "You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." Yes, the old requirement about the priesthood was set aside because it was weak and useless, for the law never made anything perfect. But now we have confidence in a better hope through which we draw near to God. The new system was established with a solemn oath. Aaron's descendants became priests without such an oath. But there was an oath regarding Jesus, for God said to him, "The Lord has taken an oath and will not break his vow. You are a priest forever." Because of this oath, Jesus is the one who guarantees this better covenant with God. There were many priests under the old system, for death prevented them from remaining in office. But because Jesus lives forever, his priesthood lasts forever. Therefore, he is able once and forever to save those who come to God through him. He lives forever to intercede with God on their behalf. He's the kind of priest we need because he is holy and blameless, unstained by sin. He has been set apart from sinners and has been given the highest place of honor in heaven. Unlike those other priests, he does not need to offer sacrifices every day. They did this for their own sins first, and then for the sins of the people. But Jesus did this once for all when he offered himself as a sacrifice for the people's sins. The law appointed high priests who were limited by human weakness. But after the law was given, God appointed his Son with an oath, and his Son has been made the perfect high priest forever. What an important psalm this is that teaches us so much about the Messiah. That he would be the Son of David, but he would also be God in the flesh. The Lord said to my Lord, "Sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool." And then that this coming king, God himself, would also be the forever priest who would make intercession between God and man, and by the sacrifice that he makes of his own flesh, draws all men unto God and pays for their sin once for all, so that we can have a perfect and unending salvation in Christ. What a marvelous psalm this is. I encourage you to read it. Read chapters in Hebrew that talk about this, and understand the marvelous plan of God and how it was carried out for us by Jesus Christ, who remains a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.